Minha nome é Alfredo.
Eu aqui, a Canura se vê que
Para mim, três características até. 12 machi, uma fami.
Minha idade é 70 anos.
eu com minha pai português de conversação, minha mulher acaba obicando da sair para aprender português.
Eu que Barnachari te fica.
Minha nome é Positi Cruz.
Meu nome é Mervyn Gomes.
Uma comunidade enqueirada que fala português. Será possível? Designam-se de Anglo-Indianos, mas serão descendentes apenas dos ingleses? Se falam português, por que não luso-indianos? São algumas destas questões que vamos abordar ao longo do programa.
When you talk about the Luso-Indians, they are now very much stratified. They are not integrated. There are socially advanced people. There is a middle class, and a large number is not at all benefited by any of these cultural legacies. They are totally alienated. The good majority are alienated. They still live in the interior. They are not very much educated. They don't earn much. So we say they are very, very backward. So since they are the majority, we must say, we have to admit that the Anglo-Indian community is backward.
ഭയങ്കര ദാരിദ്ര്യത്തിൽ ജീവിച്ചതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനത്തെ ജീവിതമായിരുന്നു. പഠനവും കൂടി കിട്ടിയിട്ടില്ല. 2 ക്ലാസ്സിൽ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളൂ. 9 മക്കളായിരുന്നു. അതിൽ മൂത്തത് ഞാനാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയാണ് ജീവിതങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടായത്.
4 ക്ലാസ് പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളൂ.
അതും ഇവിടെ തന്നെയായിരുന്നു പഠിച്ചത്?
ആ, കറക്റ്റായിട്ട് സ്കൂളിൽ.
അത് ശരി.
പിന്നെ മാമോദിസ മുക്കിയതൊക്കെ കറക്റ്റായിട്ടാണ്. പിന്നെ
നിങ്ങൾ 4ാം ക്ലാസ്സിലൊക്കെ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഉണ്ടോ?
ഇല്ല.
ഇല്ല.
അന്ന് ദൂട്ടാണ്. ഈ ഒരു അച്ചടി കോപ്പി ഉണ്ടാവും, ഒരു കണക്ക് ബുക്ക് ഉണ്ടാവും, ഒരു സ്ലേറ്റ്, ഒരു പെൻസിൽ ഉണ്ടാവും. അത്രേ ഉണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ.
അപ്പം കഷ്ടിച്ച് കണക്കും മലയാളവും മാത്രം
പഠിപ്പിക്കും. ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഇല്ല.
Olden time, Portuguese people were traders, they were very rich people. They found a lot of this thing in India. And ultimately the history goes, Dutch people captured Cochin port, everything which was built by Portuguese people. And they fled to, the Portuguese people which was there, they fled to the interior riverside places.
Though they tried to sweep away the Portuguese symbols or whatever archives, they kept us going for the reason that we were helpful to them. But then a great number of us, maybe 50%, who were not thus very qualified or trained in specific avenues of vocations, they kept moving into the interior of the land.
All of them had one Capri servant which is bought from East Africa. They got curly hair. They were working the servants at home. And now these Portuguese people, some of them are very cruel, rude. And they chopped the head and put them all blood, everything. You remain here only. Your soul will remain here. When the time comes, somebody comes, will come. And that body was buried and then it was chopped the head and kept it inside. And this soul remains there to look after that, because all the things they said, all the things, all the property, everything, this gold, everything should be looked after by you.
When my Papa was there, once when he was returning from work, midnight, this some evil spirit forced him to enter in a big pond. We had a very huge pond in our compound. So he couldn't see anything. He was blindfolded and he entered the water and he was going neck deep. He reached, and suddenly one tall fellow with a white cassock took a big stick and started hitting him. And he said, "You are going to get drowned. You get away from here." So he was hit by that kapri and he came out of the water. Then he came to his sense. When he opened his eyes, he understood he was in the middle of the pond. He would have been drowned because the pond was a very huge one. And then that kapri saved his life.
And Portuguese has to fled because Dutch people came and chased them away. We remained here only. We could not go to Lisbon at the time.
The English came after the Dutch. They were very broad-minded. They didn't have a prejudice, even though they were Anglicans. They didn't have a prejudice against Catholicism as such. So most of those who had emigrated out of Cochin kept returning as far as possible. But a great number still left behind because the years passed and populations increased. So those of us who stayed here had a little lead over them. My father, we never used to take a second language, but my dad took Malayalam, so he got an SSLC certificate. Others didn't get it. So, but anyway, our special training in different spheres of activity helped us then. But we had the good sense, common sense to get proficient in English. You see, the British asked us to learn English, and that gave us a real foothold to the future. And a divide developed in the community in such those who were in the islands, had no contact with the British, and they didn't have the facility to learn English. Neither did the Portuguese think of making them learn Portuguese. What they are speaking, and some people even to my generation before me, they speak a pidgin Portuguese. It's mixed. It isn't really Portuguese. A lot of Malayalam is in it. Konkani is in it.
ഒരു സമയത്ത് ഞങ്ങൾ ഇങ്ങനെ ഭാഷ ഇപ്പോൾ സ്തുതി പറയൂലേ അതിന് വേണ്ട പറയുന്നത് അങ്ങനെ അതൊരാചാരം. അപ്പം ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് കേട്ട് പഠിച്ച് അല്ലാതെ ഇതിൻ്റെ ജിതവിവരങ്ങൾ ഭാഷ അറിയാൻ പറ്റില്ലല്ലോ. പോർച്ചുഗീസ് ഭാഷ അറിയാൻ പറ്റില്ല.
So what happened now, there is a little very specific divide, so to say, between those of us who have colonized in towns like Fort Cochin and Nackland from those who are in, say, little far off. They have the same genes, whatever you like to call it, but they are not proficient in English.
Today in Kerala, there are basically three groups of Anglo-Indians. The first group, that is upper middle class, English speaking, English ways of dressing. I'm saying English referring only to the European way of dressing. And despite having a Portuguese ancestry, they tend to have a sort of affinity towards the Anglo-Indians of British ancestry in town cities like Bangalore or Lucknow, Kanpur and so on. Because they have a sort of a mentality which prevents them from claiming a Portuguese ancestry, because they think anything to do with Portugal is not up to the mark or not up to date, because they know of their country cousins in Waipin, the very poor Anglo-Indians who still go for fishing and other small related trades and so on. So that is the first category. And they are the ones who mostly, indulge in ballroom dancing and sort of Western cuisine and rock music, pop music. And when you go to any Anglo-Indian house in Fort Cochin or even Fort Waipin, you will find family members listening to Western music. The second category is people in the middle who are in the stage of transition. They were poor or purely Ferengi with all Portuguese Creole characteristics, but because of education and better job opportunities, they've made a sort of a transition, change in the dress habits. Either the women, they have switched to a frock, or they wear the sari, no more the kabaya. And the kids are encouraged more to speak English, use English at home. They watch more and more English programs, and they even tend to get marriage proposals from the first category of Anglo-Indians, which they consider to be a great honor for them. The third category, they're still financially backward, and they're not that sophisticated in any aspect. And the older people still retain the kabaya. But the younger folks, they have all switched to saris and the Kerala dhoti, and they become thoroughly like Malayalis, except for a few Portuguese words thrown here and there. They don't use English at all.
English ഭാഷ അവരുടെ ഭാഷ നമുക്ക് പറ്റൂല. അവർ പറയുന്നത് നമുക്കൊന്നും തിരിയാമില്ല.
ഈ നിങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ ഓർമ്മയിൽ ഈ പോർച്ചുഗീസ് ഫറങ്കി ഭാഷ ആരെങ്കിലും പറയുമായിരുന്നോ? നിങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ ചെറുപ്പത്തിൽ മമ്മാഞ്ഞിമാരോ പപ്പാഞ്ഞിമാരോ ആരെങ്കിലും ഒക്കെ
പറയും.
അപ്പോൾ മമ്മയുടെ വീട്ടിൽ ആരായിരുന്നു സംസാരിച്ചിരുന്നത്? പോർച്ചുഗീസ് ഭാഷയിൽ സംസാരിച്ചിരുന്ന ആരായിരുന്നു?
പപ്പാഞ്ഞി, മമ്മാഞ്ഞി, തിത്തി, തീയ, മാണ.
അല്ല, ഈ ഭാഷ സംസാരിക്കുമായിരുന്നു?
ആ ഭാഷയാണത്.
അല്ല, ഈ വാക്കുകളല്ലാണ്ട്?
ഇല്ല, ഇതല്ല.
ഈ വാക്കുകൾ മാത്രമേ
ഉള്ളൂ.
പോർച്ചുഗീസ്
വാക്കുകൾ സംസാരം മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ. അത് അങ്ങനെയാണ്. പിന്നെ ഈ ദൈവസ്തുതി പറയുന്നത് ബുദ്ധനോത്തി എന്ന് പറയും. ഇങ്ങനെ കൈ കെട്ടി ബുദ്ധനോത്തി എന്ന് ഫസ്റ്റിൽ പറയുന്നത് അതാണ്.
അത് എപ്പോഴാണ് പറയുന്നത്?
അത് നമ്മൾ കുരിശ് വരച്ച് നമസ്കാരം കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെ എണീറ്റ് എന്ന് ബുദ്ധനോത്തി എന്ന് പറയും.
സ്തുതി ഇപ്പം മർത്തീൻ ചേച്ചി പറഞ്ഞാൽ മതി. പ്രാർത്ഥന കഴിഞ്ഞ് സന്ധ്യക്ക് ഇറങ്ങുമ്പോൾ സന്ധ്യക്ക് പപ്പ അമ്മടേരെയൊക്കെ ചെന്ന് ബുധനേത്തെന്ന് പറയും, കൈ കിട്ടി. അപ്പോൾ കൈ തരും മൊത്തം. എൻ്റെ ഓർമ്മയിൽ ഞാൻ പറയണം. പിന്നെ അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് പിറ്റേ ദിവസം കാലത്ത് ബൊയ്തേൻ, പിന്നെ ഉച്ച നേരത്ത് പൊസ്താളുത്. ചിരിക്കണ അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ എൻ്റെ അറിവിലൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുണ്ട്.
A lot of Portuguese words entered the Malayalam language. Some scholars have identified them, and they say there are about 150. But I think it is much more. If you count words that have come into administrative language and also the customs and practices in the church. But even otherwise, there are plenty of words. For example, table is mesha for us. I think the Portuguese word is very similar. And chair is caseira for us. The Portuguese word is very similar. And paper is cadlas for us. So if you can go on like that.
Greje, casa, mãe, pai, filha, criança.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Fiz mulher.
Bostardo.
Cavalo, gato, cachorro, galinha, galo,
Cunhada.
cadeira,
Escola.
Filhos e filha.
carne,
Escambrão. Praia.
peixe.
Peixe frito.
Your Portuguese is quite different from other things.
A pronunciation little distinct.
A generation ago, the aunts used to be called only Tia, and the uncles were Tio, until it was replaced by auntie and uncle. And I remember my grandmothers using the Creole Portuguese word of sala to refer to the parlor in the house. And the kitchen was only called cucini, which is again a corrupted version of cozinha. And then we have a whole lot of words referring to the cuisine, like we still use bowl, then cozida, bafade, vindalu. Then apart from that, we have Creole Portuguese words like janela, which means window, then vinagre, cebola. Then the workmen, they use an instrument called the elevanque, which is the crowbar to lift heavy objects. Then the Chinese fishing nets, all the parts of the Chinese fishing nets, it's in Creole Portuguese, even today. For example, the Chinese fishing nets has arm-like structures made of bamboo, and these individual arms are called the brass in Malayalam, which is again a Portuguese word. And the whole structure rests on pillars made out of coconut tree stumps, and they are called odora. I'm not sure of the exact meaning of odora, but it's called odora, and I'm sure it's not Malayalam, it's Creole Portuguese. And there's a heavy stone on top of the structure, and that stone, it's used to counterbalance the weight. And we have a word for stone in Malayalam, which is kallu, but when it's used in the Chinese fishing net, it's called pedra. And the ropes, the rope has a Malayalam word, it's kayar, but when it comes to a Chinese fishing net, the rope automatically is called corda. And the net is again called red, whereas we have another Malayalam word, vala, which means a net. And all the fishermen, they use the word vala when they go for fishing. But in the Chinese fishing net, it's called red. And the central support system is called the kalizanti, which again is a Creole Portuguese word which they use. It was called the Chinese fishing nets just because these these nets were introduced by the Eurasians. I mean the the Eurasians of Malacca and Macau, because many of them, they had Malaya features, the Mongoloid features, almost like the Chinese. So the local people of Kerala, they didn't know the difference between a Malaccan and a Chinese. For them, anyone with a Mongolian feature, like slanting eyes and high cheekbones, they're automatically called Chini or Chinese. So the nets which they brought with them were called Chinavala. And I would say it's not Chinese because although Cochin was a Chinese port even before the Portuguese, in none of the Portuguese sketches of Cochin and its islands, you cannot find even a single net. So that means the Chinese didn't bring this particular net. It was brought only by the Eurasians from Macau and Malacca, the two Portuguese colonies in the east.
When these British people left India, they gathered all the European descendants. Here in India, European descendants means Spanish were there, French people were there, Portuguese people. All these together are called Anglo-Indians in one title. Before that, we were all known as Eurasians.
Eurasians, I pertain to those people. That is the people with Portuguese ancestry in Malacca and Macau, because there you cannot say Anglo-Indian. Whereas in Kerala, I mean in India in particular, there's a government legislation which says that you cannot use Eurasian anymore. Anyone with a European ancestry, let it be Portuguese, French, British, German or Italian, they are all under one nomenclature, which is Anglo-Indian by law. So in my family, before this law came into existence, the the land records mention our family as Eurasians.
Uma das formas de conhecer um país ou uma comunidade é através da música. Em Kerala conhecemos um grupo de jovens que nos entoou algumas músicas que nos dão a conhecer um pouco mais sobre a comunidade anglo-indiana.
The first song which they sang was Get the Control Out, Sir, which is not a Creole Portuguese song, it's a song in English, but it reflects a certain segment of Anglo-Indian history during the 1940s when food was very scarce in Kerala. So in the song it's mentioned that the grandmother wants to have some kalkals, which is pentafrete, a Portuguese sweet, Indo-Portuguese sweet made from rice flour. So when there was scarcity of rice, they couldn't make any Portuguese sweets, and that's affected their celebrations and parties and so on. So it's a sort of a lament where they nostalgically long for rice, and they want that control, that is that food rationing, to be stopped. The second one is Shinglinona, which is a very old Creole Portuguese song, and that song is from the place called Kodingalur, Kranganur in English, and Kodingalur was a Portuguese settlement, and there are still the remains of a Portuguese fort there. So Shingli is a Chinese name for Kodingalur or Kranganur. So Nona is a Creole Portuguese word for Dona, which generally refers to a young unmarried girl. So the theme of the song is like this. The girl asks her lover, the boy, to marry him, but the boy expresses his helplessness, saying that he doesn't have a house and he has no income. And the girl says, you don't worry, you can marry me because I know how to make puttu and I know how to make appam. So by making these, I can sell both items in the market, and with the money, we can live happily. So that's a small sort of a love song, and that's only about 2 stanzas. It's a very short love song, but it's been with the Anglo-Indian community for over at least 300 years. And interestingly, this song has even gone up till Sri Lanka and Malacca in a slightly different version. The lyrics are slightly different.
Em Vaipim encontramos Hendrix, anglo-indiano que todos os anos, durante a quaresma, vai entoando a devoção de casa em casa. Quem entoará a devoção no futuro é uma incógnita.
Parco de Nossa Senhora Stari and the Spanish to Elasto. This is regarding about Christ's passion on earth, sufferings, and what he had undergone for the sake of the people. And it was composed by Saint Francis Xavier. He is the main man who composed this devotion. My great-grandfather and my father used to sing this during those days, and I studied from them. I used to go behind them when they used to sing at night, so that came into my mind. But only I am in the family, only I got that inspiration. My elder brother and my younger brother, they don't. Most all the elderly people are dead and gone, so I'll have to tune the youngsters again to come up. I'm trying to pick up with some small children because only they'll be able to grasp the words very fast. Elderly people, pronunciation will not be there. It's very difficult to pronounce.
A forma como a comunidade anglo-indiana se veste é muito variada. Tanto podemos encontrar um homem de calça e camisa, como uma mulher de vestido ou de sari. A cabai e o tunique, que antigamente serviram como forma de identidade da comunidade anglo-indiana, quase já não existe. Apenas uma minoria, já de idade, enverga com orgulho este traje tradicional.
Some women used to wear kabaya and mundu, one type of mundu, checked mundu. And one set, slightly better families, they used to wear long dress and ordinary dress, frock. And men used to wear mundu and coat. And others, youngsters used to wear suit, pakka suit, pants, shirt, because it is a mingling type now, modern and ancient together.
നീയും കവായി വിടാൻ തുടങ്ങി.
കൊച്ചുനാൾ തുടങ്ങി.
അതെയോ? അപ്പം മമ്മയുടെ തറവാട്ടിൽ ബാക്കി എല്ലാ സ്ത്രീകളുടെയും വേഷം ഇത് തന്നെയായിരുന്നു?
അത് ശരിയായിരുന്നു. എൻ്റെ അനിയത്തിമാരും എൻ്റെ മക്കളും ഒക്കെ മക്കളൊക്കെ ഇപ്പോൾ ബോംബെ പോയി അവർ സാരിയാണ്. ഞാൻ സാരി ഉടുത്തു കുറച്ച് നാൾ, പിന്നെ ഞാൻ ഉടുത്തില്ല.
പിന്നെ വീണ്ടും കവായത്തിലേക്ക് തിരിച്ച് വരാൻ കാരണം?
കവായ വീട്ടിൽ കൊടുക്കും, അല്ലാതെ പുറത്ത് കല്യാണത്തിനൊക്കെ പോകും ഞാനേ, അപ്പം സാരി കൊടുക്കും. മീറ്റിങ്ങിനൊക്കെ പോകുമ്പോൾ സാരി കൊടുത്തു പോകും. അല്ലാതെ
മമ്മയുടെ ചെറുപ്പകാലത്ത് ഈ ഫാമിലിയിലെ സ്ത്രീകളൊക്കെ പുറത്ത് എന്ത് പരിപാടിക്ക് പോയിരുന്നാലും അവരെല്ലാം കവായം തന്നെ?
കവായം തുണിയാണ്.
അന്ന് ഈ പ്രദേശത്ത് ഫ്രോക്ക് ഇടുന്നവരുണ്ടായിരുന്നോ, മറ്റു ഉടുപ്പ് ഇടുന്നവരുണ്ടായിരുന്നോ?
മിസ്സുമാരുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, വൈപ്പിൽ മിസ്സുമാരുണ്ടായിരുന്നു.
വൈപ്പിലെ മിസ്സുമാർ മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ?
പിന്നെ ഇവിടങ്ങളിൽ കൊച്ചു പിള്ളേരൊക്കെ ഉടുപ്പെടുക്കും.
അതൊന്നുമില്ല. പഴയ ഞങ്ങളുടെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ അവർക്ക് അത് കുറവാണ്.
The Anglo-Indian community is in a crisis right now, if one has to sociologically analyze. So they have a problem, there is an economic crisis, there is an identity crisis, and a sense of, orphanness, because we have a shortage of true leadership. So these are three things we find in the Anglo-Indian community, especially the Luso-Indians.
Asi nozungo solitary identity bike linga ne to commerce ide age de kiya gare linga pe commerce po si no se gonde no se lingua jive to maro jife linga ne to commerce ide
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
minha pai com mãe tudo sabe português. Minha filha matre filha tá outro língua é que não tá eu só é que se fica minha mãe com pai tudo mora.
Será a nova geração adversa à tradição? Poderá o crioulo português sobreviver num estado em que 3 milhões de pessoas falam malayalam e inglês? Poderá o tunim, a cabaia, a devoção ter um futuro risonho? São perguntas que ficam por responder. Nós, no próximo episódio, estaremos de volta a Goa. Até daqui a 15 dias.